Hotels are supposed to be places of comfort, temporary homes where tired travelers find rest. But what if the room you checked into never let you leave? The Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles has always been infamous, a decaying building where too many stories of death, murder, and madness have left their stains on the walls. But among all of its twisted history, one story stands out. A story so disturbing, so impossible to forget, that even now, decades later, whispers of it echo through its hallways. In 1995, a woman arrived alone at the Cecil. Nobody knew much about her. She carried no luggage except a small handbag, her name written only in shaky handwriting on the check-in card. The clerk would later recall that her hands trembled as if she were afraid of something or someone. From the very first night, other guests began to notice strange things. Some heard pacing footsteps above their rooms, even when the floor was unoccupied. Others reported a woman's voice humming softly in the walls, as if she were inside the pipes. And yet, nobody ever saw her leave her room. No meals, no outings, no conversations with anyone. Just silence behind the door. Days passed and then weeks. The woman never checked out. She never came down for housekeeping, but the hotel, notorious for its negligence, ignored it. Rooms at the Cecil had a way of swallowing people whole. Then came the complaints. Guests started calling the front desk about the taste of the water. "It's foul," one couple said, "like metal, like something dead." Others said the water pressure was weak and that the showers ran brown for a few seconds before clearing. Housekeeping brushed it off, blaming the city pipes. But the truth was far worse. For days, staff avoided the rooftop. The heavy metal hatch that led to the water tanks had been mysteriously unlocked more than once, though nobody admitted to going up there. Security cameras failed. Keys went missing. And then, one morning, a maintenance worker decided to climb the narrow ladder and open the tank. The water inside was dark, cloudy, and reeking of rot. Floating just beneath the surface was the pale, bloated body of the woman who had checked in weeks earlier. Her eyes were wide open, staring straight upward, as if she had been waiting all along for someone to find her. But here's the part that turns this from tragedy into terror. The hatch to the water tank was sealed shut from the outside. There was no way she could have closed it herself. And yet, for weeks, guests had been drinking from it, showering in it, brushing their teeth with it, consuming her. Locals say that her spirit never left. That at night, in certain rooms, you can hear the sound of dripping water, even when the taps are dry. Guests swear the mirrors fog up with handprints that aren't their own. And some insist that when you lean close to the sink, the drain whispers your name. When the maintenance worker found her body floating in the water tank, the police were called immediately. Sirens echoed across Main Street as officers, detectives, and paramedics flooded the rooftop. The hotel staff stood in silence, their faces pale, their eyes wide with something that wasn't just fear, it was guilt. The corpse was bloated, waterlogged, and pale blue. Her lips were swollen, and her hair drifted around her like strands of black seaweed. The water had eaten away at her flesh, and when they finally dragged her out, her body broke apart in places. Even the detectives looked away. The medical examiner was baffled. The woman had no signs of forced trauma, no stab wounds, no gunshots, no obvious strangulation. But her lungs told another story. They were filled to the brim with water. She had drowned. inside the tank. But how? The hatch was sealed shut from the outside. The tank walls were smooth, too high for her to climb out of. Even the ladder outside required a key for access. There was no way she should have gotten there alone. No fingerprints on the hatch, no footprints on the roof, no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had appeared in the tank out of thin air. The coroner's report concluded the death as accidental drowning. But the police didn't buy it. Neither did the guests who had been drinking the water. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she had been chased by someone or something that forced her inside. Others whispered that the hotel itself wanted her there, that the building had a hunger for death. The Cecil Hotel had always been a magnet for darkness. In the past, it housed serial killers, murderers, suicides, overdoses. But this felt different. This wasn't random violence. This was ritual. And then the hauntings began. Guests who stayed after her death reported strange things. One man on the 7th floor claimed he woke in the night to hear water dripping from the ceiling onto his pillow. But when he looked up, there was nothing. Just a dark, wet stain slowly spreading across the plaster, as if something inside the walls was bleeding into his room. Another guest, a woman traveling alone, described brushing her teeth one morning when she glanced into the mirror and saw another face staring back at her. It wasn't hers. It was pale, waterlogged, with long, dark hair plastered to its cheeks, and lips that opened to whisper, in a voice she swore came from inside the sink, "Don't leave me here." Housekeepers refused to go near her old room. They said the sheets moved on their own, as though someone were still lying in the bed. They said the bathroom lights flickered whenever water ran, and if you stood in the shower too long, you'd feel fingers brushing against your ankle, dragging toward the drain. The woman had been dead for weeks before anyone found her, but in some way, she never left. She had seeped into the very pipes, into the water, into the walls. The hotel had consumed her, and now she was part of it. And for those unlucky enough to stay in her room, the nightmares only grew worse. After the autopsy, the woman's body was taken to the county morgue. She was buried in a pauper's grave, nameless, forgotten, with no family to claim her. But if the police and coroners thought this would end her story, they were dead wrong. That was when the true horror began. The Cecil Hotel seemed to change. Guests complained constantly about the water, even after the tanks were drained and cleaned. "It smells like decay," one man said, swearing that when he filled a glass, it shimmered red as if streaked with blood. Another swore he saw hair floating in his bathwater. The hotel insisted it was just rust, but the guests knew better. And then came the dreams. One by one, visitors started reporting the same nightmare: drowning. They would jolt awake, choking, gasping for breath, their lungs burning with phantom water. Some woke up with wet pillows, though no leaks were found in the ceilings. A businessman from New York claimed that when he woke in the middle of the night, his entire bed was soaked through, as if he had been dragged underwater in his sleep. Staff weren't spared either. Housekeepers said the elevators malfunctioned, always stopping at the woman's floor no matter what button was pressed. Security guards swore they heard voices calling their names from inside locked rooms. The night manager admitted he once followed the sound of sobbing to the laundry room, only to find the washing machines running, filled not with clothes, but with filthy brown water sloshing against the glass. some encounters turned violent. A young couple on their honeymoon checked into the very room the woman had stayed in. That night, they woke to the sound of dripping. The husband got up to check the sink, only to find the faucet bone dry. But when he turned around, his wife was no longer in bed. She was standing motionless in the corner, her head tilted, her long hair soaked and clinging to her face. When he rushed to her, she collapsed to the floor, choking, spitting up foul, black water. Doctors later found nothing wrong with her lungs, yet she swore she felt someone's hands dragging her beneath the surface of an invisible tank. The hotel tried to dismiss these stories as hysteria, bad plumbing, or drug-induced hallucinations, but the reports piled up. People said they saw her reflection in puddles in the street outside. Others swore she followed them home, dripping water across their apartments, whispering from their sinks, rattling their pipes at night. The Cecil Hotel wasn't just haunted anymore. It was alive, breathing, watching, feeding. The woman had fused with it, become part of its bones, its walls, its water. And now, anyone who stayed there too long risked becoming hers. By now, the Cecil had earned its reputation as one of the darkest hotels in America. Journalists came to write about it. Ghost hunters arrived with their cameras, and thrill seekers checked in just to say they had survived a night. But most of them didn't understand what they were walking into. The woman's spirit wasn't confined to a single room anymore. She wasn't even bound to the building. Guests who stayed at the hotel, even for one night, found themselves haunted long after they left. One man, a traveling salesman, checked in for 2 nights before heading back to his apartment in San Diego. A week later, his neighbors complained about a constant dripping noise. When police entered his unit, they found the man lying dead in his bathtub, the water black, thick, and foul-smelling. The strange part? His apartment pipes had been dry for months due to construction. There was no water source at all. Another case involved a young woman who uploaded a video online about her creepy stay at the Cecil. She laughed nervously about hearing someone crying in the sink. She joked about tasting weird water. 2 days later, her roommate found her drowned in her own kitchen sink. Her lungs were filled with water, but the tap was dry and the sink hadn't worked in years. It became clear that the woman from the water tank wasn't just haunting the hotel. She was hunting anyone who touched her water, who heard her whispers, who brushed their teeth, or bathed in her remains. She was inside them, crawling through their pipes, waiting. And the more people she touched, the stronger she grew. Some survivors described hearing her long before they saw her. A dripping faucet at 3 a.m. that couldn't be shut off. The sound of bubbles rising in a toilet bowl when no one had flushed it. Showers turning on by themselves, filling the room with the stench of rot. Then came the whispers, faint, broken, and wet, like a voice speaking through a mouthful of water. Sometimes just a word, sometimes a name, and once a complete sentence that chilled a woman to her core. I'm still inside you. Those who resisted her influence suffered in other ways. Migraines, fevers, unexplained bruises shaped like handprints. Some coughed up black sludge that doctors couldn't identify. And those who ignored the signs, they always drowned, in bathtubs, sinks, even puddles in the street. It didn't matter if there was enough water to kill them. She made sure there was. The Cecil was no longer just a haunted hotel. It had become a breeding ground, a hive. The woman wasn't a ghost anymore. She was a plague, seeping into plumbing, crawling into homes. infecting anyone unlucky enough to cross her. And the most terrifying part? No one ever saw her coming. All it took was a single drink of water, a single shower, a single moment of weakness. Once she was in you, there was no escape. Legends grow because people can't stop telling them. The Cecil Hotel's guests swore they would never return, but they couldn't resist whispering what they saw, what they felt, what followed them home. And with each retelling, the woman in the water grew stronger. She was no longer a nameless victim floating in a tank. Residents across Los Angeles reported foul, dark water pouring from their taps. Showers turned on by themselves. Sinks gurgled in the dead of night. A plumber assigned to check a faulty line swore he saw a pale, bloated face staring up at him through the pipes before a surge of black water knocked him unconscious. Her reach had spread. One story, the most chilling of them all, came from a tourist who decided to document a night at the Cecil for his paranormal YouTube channel. He wanted to debunk the myths. He laughed at the peeling wallpaper, the flickering lights, the smell of mildew. He thought it was all just theatrics. But his final recording told a different story. At 3:07 a.m., the video shows him brushing his teeth in the grimy hotel bathroom. He spits, wipes his mouth, and then freezes. Behind him in the mirror, a second figure stands. A woman with long, dripping hair. Her head tilted, her eyes wide, her mouth opening far too wide for a human face. The camera falls to the sink. For the next 4 minutes, nothing can be seen, but everything can be heard. Gurgling, thrashing, water splashing violently, as though someone was being held under. A man's muffled screams, drowning slowly. And then, silence. When police later entered the room, the bed was soaked. The sink overflowed, but there was no body. The tourist had vanished completely. The only thing left was the camera, its lens shattered, and a single line scratched into the bathroom mirror. She never leaves. And so the legend lives on. Guests still whisper of her. Travelers swear they feel watched when they pass the Cecil at night. Some even claim to see wet footprints leading away from the building, fading into the city streets. The woman who never left the hotel doesn't need to wait for you to check in anymore. Because if you've heard her story, if you've pictured her face, if you've imagined her voice whispering through your sink, she's already inside your home, inside your pipes, inside your water. And tonight, when you pour yourself a glass to drink, you might not be drinking alone.